was so cautious. And I said, no, I am not a jumping off a cliff kind of a person. And then suddenly, I saw it so clearly. I can choose to be a jumping off a cliff kind of a person. The kind of person who's willing to throw themselves into the void despite the fear, despite who they've always been. And the only way to be that person is to do it, to come across a cliff and throw yourself off. And I knew immediately, instinctively, that's who I want to be. That's what I need to do. I was on the train to Vermont to meet up with my wife, Sarah, and our 2 young kids for a couple of summer weeks there. Sarah and I were going through a rough patch in our marriage, so I was thinking about what I wanted to say to her when I got there, like, we should go to couples therapy and I'll try harder. When I got there, Sarah sat me down and said, I'm leaving you. I said, let's talk about this. She said, no, I need to go. Sarah slept in the other room that night because I hadn't yelled and demanded she go stay in a hotel. And looking back, I wonder if that's what she wanted, someone with enough fire to send her packing. I felt blindsided, disbelief. I thought every marriage has its ups and downs, but I thought we were fundamentally okay. We never really fought. We'd gone to couples therapy a few times the previous year as sort of preventative maintenance and felt a little smug at getting a clean bill of health from the therapist. In retrospect, maybe not the finest therapist in Washington, D.C. I lay in bed that night feeling unmoored, thinking we're separated. This is what it feels like to be separated. I thought about where this was coming from. Sarah had just turned 40. I was 42 and feeling stuck in a lot of ways. I was frustrated in my job, but I couldn't bring myself to quit. Our marriage felt stagnant, a business partnership around raising our children, a life full of play dates and trips to Target, hanging out with other parents, the occasional date night. We'd tried to reconnect. We'd gone to Paris by ourselves for our 10th anniversary, and Sarah got sick as soon as we landed and spent the whole trip in bed while I went out sightseeing by myself. I went on our 10th anniversary splurge dinner with a work friend. I entirely missed the obvious foreshadowing. So back in Vermont the next morning, Sarah said goodbye to me and the kids and left. And I called my parents and asked them to come pick us up. I felt ashamed and I could barely utter the words, Sarah is leaving me. Almost nobody in our family was divorced. This year, my parents celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary. And when I was in high school, my dad wrote a self-help book called Super Marriage. So as much as I felt sad, I felt like I had failed. So Sarah's midlife crisis had launched, and now she had triggered mine as I was flailing around wildly trying to figure out how to become someone she would want to come back to. I quit my job the next day. I bought a book and started meditating. I got a $55 haircut because my sister-in-law told me to get a haircut that cost at least $50. I asked the woman to cut my hair short, and she pointed to my wedding ring and said, is your wife going to be okay with that? And I froze, the word separated catching in my throat. I went on a listening tour asking all my friends, so how's your marriage? How do you make it work? In Seattle, my friends took turns hanging out with me at night because I couldn't stand to be alone with my own thoughts. In LA, I talked to a friend who'd thought about leaving her husband, but then pulled back from the brink, and I wanted all the details about how she had done that. Back in DC, Sarah got her own apartment. We were splitting time with the kids, which was an incredibly painful transition. And I really struggled with learning how to be the person who makes all the decisions by myself when I was solo parenting. And we went to couples therapy a few times, but Sarah didn't show that much interest in how I was changing or in getting back together. One day, my own therapist asked me, so what connects you to your wife? And I wasn't exactly sure what he meant. And he said, well, for some people, it's an intense physical connection. Other people are best friends or have powerful romantic chemistry. What is it for you? And I stared at him blankly. And I could not think of anything besides our children. And that was the first moment where I understood why this was happening. The first moment where I thought getting divorced might actually make sense, and that maybe there could be a happier version of me in the future. I went to visit my friend Parker in Wyoming, and we went on a hike through the mountains on a trail around a lake. And we came to this 25-foot cliff, and there were some teenagers jumping off the cliff into the water. And Parker asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was so cautious. And I said, no, I am not a jumping off a cliff kind of a person. And then suddenly, I saw it so clearly. I can choose to be a jumping off a cliff kind of a person. the kind of person who's willing to throw themselves into the void despite the fear, despite who they've always been. And the only way to be that person is to do it, to come across a cliff and throw yourself off. And I knew immediately, instinctively, that's who I want to be. That's what I need to do. And I knew if I thought about it too long, I would definitely chicken out. So I just followed the impulse. I dropped my backpack, and I took off my shirt and shoes, and I threw myself off the cliff. And the rock jutted out. I couldn't see the landing. I was just jumping out into the air. It was terrifying. And I squealed like a 6-year-old. And I plunged into the water. And as I came back up, I thought, I did that. I am the kind of person who jumps. And then I climbed back up and I did it again, just to prove to myself that I was the kind of person who could do new things, scary things. And meanwhile, the teenagers are drinking beers and laughing at my screams. And I'm like, hey, a little respect. I'm trying to have a life-changing experience over here. Back home, I kept evolving. One friend helped me buy some new clothes. Another one talked me into signing up for my first triathlon, which was less cliched at the time than it sounds in retrospect. I went on my first trip by myself in 15 years, and I started looking for a new job. I had 45 coffees in 60 days, meeting with everyone on LinkedIn who would say yes to me. And I wasn't trying to change for Sarah. I was trying to invent the new me. 6 months after she left, it was clear we were not getting back together. So my New Year's resolution for 2013 was to jump off the cliff into the dating pool. I was very anxious about online dating for the first time, and so I read these OkCupid blog posts about analyzing big data about how to make a successful dating profile, and I carefully crafted mine to match. No bathroom selfies, no pictures with women who might be your ex, lots of details in your profile someone can message you about, and do not set your target age range for women as 25 to 33 like most men do. One friend warned me, take it slow, you're a relationship guy. So the next day, I get a one-line message about a book in my profile from DC Surfer Girl, a woman with a big smile and muscly legs standing on a paddleboard. And I spent about 2 hours crafting a witty response. And I send it off, and I do not hear from her again. Okay, lesson learned, when someone sends you a one-line message, do not send them a full page in response. About 2 years later, I'd been dating people on and off, and through a twist of fate, DC Surfer Girl and I end up on our first date. She tells me she would never get married again. She does not want kids or frankly even like them very much. She wouldn't probably live with someone again. And I wasn't sure that was the right fit for the relationship guy. But then again, maybe it was, because I was really enjoying the part of my life without kids, feeling dramatically different from the parenting part of my life. I made the mistake of Googling her after our second or third date, and I found a city paper story calling her DC's top gallery party hostess. And I thought, that is very different from my nonprofit politics world. But by this point, I was pretty clear about what I wanted to do when I came across a cliff. Well, DC Surfer Girl and I are celebrating our 11th anniversary next week. We are happily unmarried with matching tattoos instead of matching rings. We're still living separately a block apart. Today, I would tell my therapist that I'm crazy about her, that she's my best friend. We push each other outside our comfort zones, that her emotional intelligence and my analytical side make us a formidable team. And I'm confident if we had gone out on a date when we first messaged, we would not have ended up together. I was still the old me, wishing to be a different me, squealing like a 6-year-old when I faced with a cliff, but trying to learn how to jump. Thank you.
Jump, jump.